Every single year, the world produces more than 430 million metric tons of plastic. If you loaded all of that onto freight trains, the line would wrap around the entire Earth 7 times. And here's the part that should really bother you. Less than 10% of all the plastic ever made in human history has ever been recycled. The rest is sitting in landfills, floating in oceans, or breaking apart into pieces so small they're now showing up inside human blood, human lungs, and even human arteries. We built the modern world on a material that never goes away, and now it's building up inside of us. But in October 2025, a small team of researchers at a forestry school in northeast China published a paper that made materials engineers stop scrolling and start staring. They said they had created a plastic made from 100% bamboo. Not bamboo mixed with oil. Not bamboo glued together with plastic resin. A real plastic, built entirely from bamboo's own molecules, that runs through the exact same factory machines companies already own, and that completely disappears in plain soil in about 50 days. To understand why this matters, you have to understand why plastic took over everything in the first place. It's cheap. It can be melted and poured into any shape on Earth. It doesn't rust, rot, or shatter. It's the reason your food stays fresh, the reason hospitals can keep instruments sterile, the reason a syringe or an IV bag is safe to use. Getting rid of plastic sounds simple until you realize you'd be ripping out one of the load-bearing pieces of modern life. But the same property that makes plastic so useful is exactly what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't break down. For decades, scientists have tried to fix this, and almost every attempt has failed in the exact same way. Take PLA, the most common bioplastic, made from fermented corn starch. It only breaks down inside special industrial facilities held above 58 degrees Celsius for weeks. It's also weak, it can't handle heat, and it eats up farmland that could be growing food instead. Then there's FAR, which breaks down more easily but costs several times more than regular plastic to produce. So it's been stuck in tiny niche products for years. Starch-based plastics dissolve the second they get wet. Cellulose acetate is stronger, but making it requires harsh chemicals that defeat the entire point of going green. For 50 years, the plastics industry has been stuck picking 2 out of 3: strong, biodegradable, or affordable. Nobody could get all 3 at once. That wall is exactly what a team led by researchers Xingyu Wu and Daowei Zhao at Northeast Forestry University in Harbin, working with Shenyang University of Chemical Technology, just broke through. Here's why bamboo was considered basically impossible to work with before this. The cellulose inside bamboo is locked together by an incredibly dense web of hydrogen bonds, which is what lets a bamboo stalk stand tall in strong wind, but those same bonds make it almost impossible to reshape. Try to force raw bamboo into a mold and it just snaps. Earlier attempts at bamboo plastic cheated around this by grinding up bamboo fiber and gluing it together with regular plastic resin. It looked green on the label, but it was still half oil, and it still didn't biodegrade. What this new team did was completely different. Instead of mixing bamboo with plastic, they turned bamboo into plastic. First, they soaked bamboo cellulose in a solvent made from zinc chloride and formic acid, which unlocks those rigid hydrogen bonds without damaging the molecules themselves, like carefully untangling a fishing net instead of cutting it apart. Then they added ethanol, which guides the freed molecules to reconnect into a brand new structure, tighter and stronger than the one bamboo started with. The result is a material built from 100% of bamboo's own molecules, no synthetic glue, no petroleum, nothing left behind. They named it BM plastic, short for bamboo molecular plastic. And the test numbers are what actually silence the skeptics. BM plastic hits a tensile strength of 110 megapascals, nearly double PLA, and stronger than high-impact polystyrene. It scored 6.41 gigapascals on bending resistance, beating abs, the tough plastic used in car dashboards and Lego bricks. It holds its shape above 180 degrees Celsius, survived 7 straight days at 100 degrees Celsius without cracking. Then, in plain soil with no special facility, it was essentially gone in 50 days. The full dataset was published openly in Nature Communications, so any scientist on Earth can check the work. Bamboo isn't a random choice either. Some species grow more than 1 meter in a single day. A harvested bamboo forest fully regrows in 3 to 5 years compared to 25 to 30 years for pine, with no replanting needed. China alone has more than 7.5 million hectares of bamboo forest across roughly 20 provinces, an industry already worth close to 320 billion yuan, supporting over 7.5 million farmers. And it's already happening. China launched a national plan in 2022 to substitute bamboo for plastic, followed by a formal 3-year action plan in 2023. It costs around $2,300 per ton to produce right now, compared to roughly $12,000 to $2,200 for regular plastic, and researchers say that gap should shrink fast as production scales, especially once you factor in the hidden cost of plastic pollution, which one estimate puts near $2.400 per ton by 2040.
A team of engineers in Beijing ran the same AI task on 2 machines. One was a normal graphics card, the same kind that powers most AI today. The other was a system they built from scratch using light instead of wires. The graphics card finished in 15.6 milliseconds. The light-based system finished in 105 microseconds. That is 149 times faster, and it used only a fraction of the power. This is the story of how a small team may have found a way around the world's biggest chip shortage without building a single new chip. The breakthrough came from Peking University. Researchers Xu Howen and Wang Qingjun led a team that looked at AI hardware in a completely different way. Every AI model works in layers. Data passes from one layer to the next, dozens or even hundreds of times. On a normal chip, each layer has to save its work to memory, then the next layer has to grab that saved work before it can even start. This back and forth eats up huge amounts of time and energy. Engineers call this the memory wall, and it might be the biggest hidden problem in modern computing. Picture a factory line where every worker has to walk their finished part back to a shelf, set it down, and wait for the next person to come pick it up. Now imagine instead that each worker just hands the part straight to the person next to them. No walking, no waiting. That is what the Beijing team built. Except instead of factory workers, they used chips connected by light. Their system used 5 small chips called FPGAs. Each FPGA handled exactly 1 layer of a 5-layer neural network. Then, instead of copper wires, the team linked those 5 chips using pure light. They built 2 new pieces of hardware to make this happen. The first was a custom light transceiver that turns electrical data into light and back again, running at 400 gigabits per second. No boosting needed, no delay. Why does light work so much better than wire? When electricity moves fast through copper, it creates heat and loses energy the farther it travels. Light does not have that problem. Different colors of light can travel down the same fiber at the same time without interfering with each other. And a light switch does not have to check, hold, or resend data packets the way a normal network switch does. It just lets the light pass straight through. Now here is where it gets interesting. The system was not fully made of light. The FPGAs still did their math using electricity. The transceivers still had to switch between electric and light signals. Only the connections between chips ran on light. This mix turned out to be the smartest part of the whole design. To test it, the team ran a 5-layer AI model built to clean up noisy images, using a dataset called Fashion Minist. They sent 1,000 images through the system, each one 32 by 32 pixels. The light-based system finished the entire job in 105.16 microseconds. That number alone would be impressive, but the real headline number is this. Then came the comparison. The team ran the exact same job on a standard GPU with 3,712 cores, rated at nearly 17 teraflops of processing power. On paper, that GPU had more than 8 times the raw power of the 5 small FPGAs combined. The FPGA system only delivered 1.969 teraflops, roughly 11.6% of the GPU's power. And yet, the GPU took 15.6 milliseconds to finish the same job the FPGA system finished in 105 microseconds, nearly 150 times slower, despite having far more raw horsepower. So what happened to all that GPU power? It got stuck waiting. The GPU had to finish 1 layer, save the result, load new rules for the next layer, then fetch that saved result again before starting new math. That loading and saving, over and over, took far more time than the actual math itself. A Chinese car company just built a battery that charges in 4 minutes and can drive for 1 million kilometers before it dies. For 30 years, every battery engineer on Earth believed this was impossible. You could have a fast battery, or a long-lasting battery, or a safe battery. Never all three. That rule just broke, and the company that broke it is Geely. The battery is called the Golden Brick. It uses a chemistry called LEFP, which stands for lithium iron phosphate. This is not some rare or expensive material. LEFP has been used in electric cars for years because it is cheap and safe. What it was never known for was speed. That changed when Geely tested this battery at 1,093 kilowatts of charging power. To put that number in words that matter, this battery can go from 10% to 70% charge in 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Push it further to 97% and it only takes 8 minutes and 42 seconds. That is faster than most people spend waiting in line for coffee. Here is the part that should worry every other car company on the planet. Fast charging usually destroys batteries. When you push electricity into a battery quickly, it creates heat, and heat breaks down the chemicals inside. This is why phone batteries get weaker after a year or two of fast charging. Geely's engineers had to solve this heat problem, or the battery would die fast even if it charged fast. Their answer was cooling from both sides of the battery cell at once, instead of just one side like almost every other car on the road today. They also built the car with a 900-volt electrical system instead of the usual 400 volts. Higher voltage means less current has to flow through the wires, and less current means less heat. During the full power test, the battery reached a peak temperature of 64 degrees Celsius. China's new safety law says an LFP battery cannot legally go above 65 degrees. Geely hit the ceiling with only 1 degree to spare, while charging faster than any production LFP battery in history. Now here is where the story gets bigger. Speed alone does not matter if the battery dies after 2 years. Geely claims their battery can survive 4,500 full charge cycles before it drops below usable capacity. A full cycle means charging from empty to full one time. If the average driver gets around 220 kilometers of range per full charge, then 4,500 cycles out to roughly 990,000 kilometers. Geely rounds that up and calls it 1 million kilometers. Most people never even keep a car past 200,000 kilometers.